They hired me, he brought me on for intermission. You're stuck with me for intermission, ladies and gentlemen. Every time I see Steve, it reminds me of the time I got this hook stuck in the top of my head. When it was in the hat, this number 4 king spoon. You ever had a number 4 king spoon stuck in the top of your head, ladies and gentlemen? Yep. Stayed in there for 3 months. Can you believe it? The first day it was in there, I went to the emergency room, and I talked to the doctor there. He says, "Treble hook, I can get that hook out of your head, but I'm going to have to cut that hat off first." I says, "I ain't going for that. I got the heck out of there. I wasn't going to ruin a perfectly good hat because I had a hook in top of my head." Now, come on. So I went home and I slept on it, literally. I slept on this hat. And I woke up the next morning, I said, "You know what I ought to go see? Is a neurosurgeon." I said, "He can get that hook out of the top of my head without ruining my hat." You know, with all the technology we have today, so I went to the neurosurgeon, and he says, "Treble hook, I can get that number 4 king spoon out of the top of your head." I says, "That's good." He says, "But I'm going to have to go laparoscopically up through your nostril to get to it." And I says, "I got the heck out of there too. I wasn't going to go for that." So, you know, I thought I'd go see the next day I woke up, I thought I'd go see a spiritual counselor, a guy, a yogi or a Buddha guy, you know, who called himself a psychologist. So I went to see the psychologist to see if he could get this hook out of my head. And he says, "Treble hook, I can't get that hook out of your head because I can put you on some medication." I says, "I don't need that. All I need is some antibiotics because I think my brain got a little infected." For 3 months, folks, this hook stayed in the top of my head. 3 months. People said, "Treble hook, do you sleep in that hat?" I sure do. I can't get that hook out of the top of my head. And so one morning I woke up and I opened up the paper and I was looking in the classified ads and I seen an estate sale and it said fishing equipment. So I went to this estate sale and I knocked on the door at 7 o'clock in the morning, and this little lady, Italian lady, answered the door. She couldn't have been taller than 4'11" in high heel shoes. She answers the door and she looks up at me and says, "Mister, I thought I made it perfectly clear the estate sale don't start until 9 a.m. I says, "I know that, ma'am, but if I show up at 9 o'clock, all the good stuff's going to be gone." I says, "Was your husband a fisherman?" She said, "Go back to the shed back there and you can find all the fishing stuff you want. I'll be happy to get rid of it." So I went back to that shed and I found antique fishing lures still in the box. They ain't ever been opened. All that money I spent on them doctors to get this hook out of my head that they said they couldn't get it out, I made all my money back selling them antique lures on eBay and Craigslist. There was even a Ted Williams baitcaster reel in there with his signature on it and a little picture of face of him on there. That fetched me $350 on eBay. So if you ever see one, you can pretty much count on what it's worth. But anyways, last thing that was in that shed was an old Plano tackle box. All rusted. I had to get my sledgehammer to bust it off the concrete and get it open. But the last thing I pulled out of there, folks, was a Ronco. You ever heard of Ronco before? That company Ronco, they made that Pope Peel's Pocket Fisherman. Well, there wasn't a pocket fisherman in that Plano tackle box, but what was in there was a Ronco fish scaler. You know what a fish scaler is, right? It was a fish scaler on one side and a fish de-hooker on the other side, and I ran that fish de-hooker right up the side of my hat and I popped this hook out of the top of my head, just like that. And you know what the first thing I did after that, after I got that hook out of the top of my head? I took my hat off and I scratched it with that fish scaler. Have you ever worn a hat for 3 months? You start to itch something bad. I wear it for a day and my head starts itching. I think I even scratched all the hair off the top of, some of the hair off the top of my head. Nice thing is now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got you know how people pierce all kinds of things these days? They pierce their belly buttons, and I'm not even going to go into the details of the places they pierce. But the nice thing about that is I got a natural piercing right in the top of my head now. So when somebody tells you that guy Treble Hook has a hole in his head, they ain't lying. I really got a hole in my head, folks. And when I can do 30 knots out there on the intercoastal waterway, just with this hook stuck in that hole in the top, and my hat won't blow off the top of my head. So how's that for you?